to me, to be honest. But if y'all are making that kind of work in your relationship, then I'm curious. Yeah. Like what are y'all doing? And so with that, yeah, I mean, that's all I got around like picky eating, whether it's kids or like your friends or, you know, people with like a bunch of dietary restrictions trying to pull off a dinner together. I think there has to be like some middle ground and like some gray area there for like accountability on all parts to make something work like that. And with that, I'm actually going to go into this next question that, number one, I was hesitant to sort of like read and answer just because of, I think, like the tone around healthy meals and like what that means to me. And that looks different for some other families than it does for me. But I do think that they kind of tie in together a little bit. And so Tammy wrote, "Hey, Ava, with the cold weather approaching, can you make recommendations for actually healthy meals?" So why I was hesitant to answer this on this episode is like, healthy is a loaded word. And also, healthy looks hella different to lots of different people, lots of different cultures, lots of different eating styles. I am somebody that has struggled with disordered eating and eating disorders since I was 8. I have been like fully anti-diet for the last 3 years, and I can tell you that my own personal relationship with food and eating and body image is like in the best place that it has ever been. I feel like very resolved around those issues. And it really was because I chose to like get off the fucking diet train, just to make an incredibly long and complicated story short. I also understand that like most folks that are asking about quote healthy thing, like it's not insidious. It's not like, I understand the intention behind it. And so that's why I decided to go ahead and answer, but I did answer this question, but I did want to provide context as to why healthy can be a loaded word and a loaded statement. And like, you know, healthy meals. I am maybe not your girl to ask for, you know, healthy options, because I think generally speaking, I mean, anything can be healthy. Well, okay, like pump the brakes. I don't need anybody to like burn my apartment down. And I also am like hoping that those of you that are listening are like kind of understanding where I'm going with this. Like, I get it. I mean, if you're like deep fat frying sticks of butter and eating that for dinner, like I get that. But, for me and mine personally, there are no things that are like off limits. I don't exclude any food groups. We eat dairy. We eat carbs. We eat pasta. We eat rice. We eat meat. I mean, like we really do like eat all of the things. And so the word healthy is debatable, right? Like, let's see. In the last couple of weeks, I have made curry. This week I phoned it in pretty hard, but vegetables, and I pulled out some stock out of the freezer that I had made, and made tortellini soup that I can have on the table in like 20 minutes. That's healthy to me. Do you get what I'm saying? Like there's nuance here. I think that like, for the most part, food that we prepare at home, for the most part, right, is like the healthier option, as opposed to like eating out and about. But, yeah, no, I mean, I'm not eating like, you know, like heavy cream based soups every night because I probably wouldn't feel too great at the end of the week. But at the same time, like if you're preparing meals at home and spending the time to do that and to get the ingredients, I understand that there are some people that are listening to this, so I just answer the fucking question. But like, I'm never going to just do that. Cause there's just like too much gray area, and what you think might be healthy, I might not, and vice versa. And when we really get into like accessibility in terms of like food, and like I'm really fortunate to have access to quality food and quality produce, and that doesn't mean that is across the board for everybody. Okay. And so like part of like my wants and also my obligation is just like a human being that has any kind of platform whatsoever, is to also kind of shed light on this sort of thing. So like, I'm not going to just like write out some, quote, healthy meal plan, because I don't necessarily know what that looks like for you. And also people that don't, like if you're in a food desert, or if you don't have the same accessibility to food, like that's a problem. That's problematic, And so I think with that, if you're preparing meals at home, like why don't you just start there? Like if you can get your hands on some produce, even if it's not fresh, even if it's in a can or frozen, start there. I am a big fan of soup and soup. Oh, for fuck's sake. You know what I'm saying? Soup and stew. Oh my God, I'm done. Oh my God, I'm done. No, I have to try to do this one more. Why is that so hard? Soup and stew season. Good grief. That was hopefully the dumbest thing that I'll do all day. Because number one, they are for the most part easy as shit. And like I literally can just cram all of the food groups into a bowl and have dinner on the table, and then have hella leftovers that I can freeze for the next time. So this is like hands down my favorite time of year in terms of cooking for myself, cooking for my family, because it's just easy. And so whack a bunch of shit into a pot. Find a protein, find a veg, get your hands on some broth. If you can make your own, dope. If you can't, that's cool too. Get low sodium. And then go from there. Again, if you're rolling your eyes and you're like, I wish that you would have just answered that question, you came to the wrong podcast, because it ain't happening. And also, I challenge you to, start like, I don't know, asking yourself and like observing, like, what does qualify as healthy? Okay. Don't overcomplicate it. Just make something for dinner. Amen. That's all I got. This is cute, and they did not sign their name. So I don't know who actually said this. I mean, kind of, sort of. No, I don't actually, because their Gmail was not their name. Anywho. It says, "Hello, Biscuit Queen. I had your biscuits for the first time a couple of weeks ago. I met you at the market, and you are darling. How do you get your biscuits so good and so flaky? Mine never come out this way. Thank you." First of all, way to make my day. I also am very glad that you think that I'm darling, because when you saw me, especially if it was in the last couple of weeks have been real weird for me, like personally and professionally. And the times that I've been at market, like, I mean, I'm a business owner and I'm also a human being, right? And so I have been crazy town tired. I mean, I get up at 2:00 in the morning anyways to bake and get everything set up and whatnot on Saturdays for the market. But good Lord, if you thought that I was darling and at any point during the last couple of weeks, you are my hero, because I feel like I was lots of things the last several weeks, and darling is at the bottom of that list. So anywho, girl, butter. That's like, there are copious amounts of butter in my biscuits. I was going to say sorry to say, but I'm actually not going to apologize for that because yes, ma'am, that's why they're as good as they are. And the texture of them, the flakiness that you're referencing, it's all technique. That's all it is. Yes, I mean, like with any recipe, a good recipe is going to get you far. But in terms of like, especially the things that I bake personally for the bakery, they are very much technique based. Do you know what I'm saying? It's all in the technique. And so I'm flattered and I am very grateful that you had such nice things to say about my biscuits. And with that, I actually am going to be recording a biscuit class to share with y'all. And that will be available here in the next couple of months. And I'm thrilled about that. It's something that I wanted to do for a while now. And with like all of the emails and I don't know, just conversations with people, I think that it's going to be really good. So again, I appreciate you. So I wish that I come back and see me and introduce yourself because I love to put faces with names. But thank you. And I'm really glad that you enjoyed them. And then the last question I got, which is actually one of my most favorite things to talk about. I don't know why. I feel like it's really weird, but like when we went into quarantine real heavy, you know, like at the beginning of March in 2020, a lot of people were talking about like kitchen staple items, you know, like your pantry staples. And I geeked the fuck out over that. Like I was thrilled to have those kinds of conversations. And so this question reads, "Hi Ava, I'm moving out of my ex-husband's house and I need to fully stock my cabinets and fridge. What are your favorite staples?" And again, this is just something that I could really and truly bang on about. So here we go. We're going to broad stroke it. And like, you can pull from this what you will, and you can like leave what you're not down with, but I'm going to kind of cover the whole shebang. From like condiments to like some, well, let me just shut up and let me just tell you what some of my favorites are. I think that it's important, if you're not a baker, then you can tell me to fuck off. And even if you're not, like all-purpose flour, sugar, baking powder, and baking soda. Like those are just kind of like baking essential 101. You know what I'm saying? And obvious, like sugars and salts and brown sugars, and you can kind of get into like some specifics with that. But for sure, the four aforementioned, that's something that like I always have in my cupboard at all times. Other things that I think are really necessary to have on hand are like plain rolled oats, not necessarily quick oats, but just like old-fashioned oatmeal, breadcrumbs or panko, rice, a variety of beans, and I also generally have some kind of tomato, like canned tomato type situation. I usually buy crushed tomatoes in like a big ass can. What was that? 28 ounces or whatever. And then like obviously salt and pepper. Okay. If you want to get into like spices, let's not get into spices. Let's not. I also think that like having alliums is always super important. So, onions, garlic, shallot. I always have those like in my basket. If you like buy a bag of potatoes and keep them, you know, like in a cool, dark place, like don't put them in the fridge and don't just like leave them out on the counter, but like those will last. And same with like onions and alliums as well. And then some of my favorite condiments are like, I'm always going to have olive oil on hand. And I'm also always going to have like a high heat burn. So like grapeseed or like canola or vegetable oil. I'm always going to have vinegars. I think that like vinegar in general is super underrated and super undervalued in the kitchen. So